Lisa and her daughter Lily sat in their cramped seats on the flight that seemed interminably delayed, desperately trying to pass the time. Lisa flipped through the pages of a coloring book, attempting to distract her daughter from the mounting boredom. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell to avoid missing any videos. The cabin was alive with the low murmur of discontented passengers, their restlessness palpable. The incessant drone of the air conditioning barely concealed the collective impatience. Lisa's gaze flitted to her watch repeatedly, her frustration mounting with each passing minute. It had been nearly an hour of inexplicable delay, with no updates or explanations from the flight crew to assuage their growing anxiety. "Mommy, why aren't we flying yet?" Lily inquired, her innocent blue eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Lisa, struggling to keep her unease in check, forced a reassuring smile. "I'm not sure, darling. Sometimes these things just take a little longer than we expect." At that moment, the cabin door creaked open, and an elderly man hobbled into view. Each of his steps was labored, his gait unsteady as his leg dragged behind him with a pronounced limp. The weight of his carry-on bag seemed almost too much for him, as he grimaced with the effort. His struggle was met with a few sympathetic glances from other passengers, but the man sitting near the front, impeccably attired in a meticulously tailored suit, had no such empathy. As the elderly man navigated the narrow aisle, his bag inadvertently brushed against the wealthy passenger. The man's face twisted in irritation as he looked up with a scowl. "Watch where you're going," he barked, his tone dripping with condescension. "Do you even know how to handle yourself?" The elderly man, visibly startled and flustered, mumbled a flustered apology as he continued on his way. Reaching his seat near the window at the back, he grappled with the carry-on bag, attempting to lift it into the overhead compartment. However, the weight of the bag in his frail condition made the task nearly impossible. With a heart-wrenching thud, the bag slipped from his grasp and fell onto the wealthy passenger seated directly below. The rich man's face turned a shade of crimson as he leaped from his seat, his fury evident. "What in the world do you think you're doing?" he roared, his voice echoing with outrage. "Are you trying to injure someone with that thing?" The elderly man, visibly trembling, stammered an apology, his hands shaking uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to cause any trouble." "Didn't mean to," the wealthy man interrupted, his voice growing louder and more scathing. "Why are people like you even allowed on these flights? You're a menace to everyone around you." Lisa's cheeks flushed with a deep, searing anger as she absorbed the wealthy man's callous remarks. Her gaze swept across the cabin, noting the unease etched on the faces of the other passengers. Yet not a single person dared to speak out. Lisa inhaled deeply, struggling to keep her composure for Lily's sake, but the harsh words felt like a searing flame, threatening to erupt. She watched as the elderly man, visibly trembling, finally managed to secure his bag and close the overhead compartment. The wealthy man continued to sneer, his indifference palpable as he did nothing to assist. Lisa's heart ached for the old man, whose struggle was met with disdain rather than compassion. She knew she couldn't remain silent any longer. Just as she rose to confront the situation, the flight attendant's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seats and fasten your seat belts. We are preparing for takeoff." With a resigned sigh, Lisa sank back into her seat, casting a resentful glance at the wealthy man, silently wishing he would display at least a modicum of respect during the flight. Though her frustration bubbled beneath the surface, she tried to focus on Lily, who now colored quietly beside her. The plane rumbled down the runway and lifted into the sky. As the seatbelt sign switched off, Lisa allowed herself a moment of relief, hoping the remainder of the flight would proceed peacefully. However, her relief was short-lived. The wealthy man began to shift in his seat, making exaggerated, almost theatrical movements and muttering irritably under his breath. With a flourish, he pressed the call button for the flight attendant and then addressed everyone around him in a voice loud enough to be heard by all. "I need to be moved," he announced, his tone dripping with disdain. "I can't endure sitting here. The stench from that old man is making me ill." The flight attendant approached, her demeanor calm but resolute. "Sir, please lower your voice. What seems to be the issue?" "The issue," the wealthy man snapped, pointing an accusing finger at the elderly man. "It's him. I can't sit next to someone who reeks of a hospital. It's revolting." Lisa's frustration reached a boiling point. She could no longer restrain herself. Rising from her seat with a voice firm and resolute, she declared, "That's enough. This man deserves dignity, not your contempt." The wealthy man turned his ire towards Lisa, his face contorted in annoyance. "And who exactly are you to confront me?" "This is none of your business," the wealthy man snapped dismissively. Lisa met his gaze with unwavering resolve. "It's everyone's business when someone is being treated unfairly," she retorted, her voice steady and resolute. "This man is a veteran who has sacrificed to protect our country. He deserves our respect and appreciation, not your disdain." A hush fell over the cabin as passengers turned their attention to the escalating scene. Lisa's voice grew louder and more determined. "My daughter and I will gladly relinquish our seats so this gentleman can travel in comfort. He deserves far better than to be subjected to your intolerance." Turning to Lily, who was watching with wide, concerned eyes, Lisa said, "Lily, we're going to let this gentleman have our seats. You'll sit on my lap for the rest of the flight. Okay?" Lily nodded solemnly, her expression mirroring her mother's seriousness. "Okay, Mommy." The wealthy man's mouth gaped in disbelief as he sputtered, "You can't just," but before he could finish, other passengers began to voice their support for Lisa. "She's right," one man called out. "Show some decency." Another woman chimed in, "You should be deeply ashamed of yourself." The flight attendant approached with an authoritative presence, her tone brooking no argument. "Sir, please lower your voice and exhibit some respect for your fellow passengers. Mom, if you and your daughter would like to switch seats, we can assist with that." Lisa nodded gratefully, helping Lily gather their belongings. The elderly man looked at Lisa with a mixture of gratitude and surprise, his eyes glistening. "Thank you so much, miss. You didn't have to go out of your way like this." Lisa offered a warm, reassuring smile. "It's the least we can do. You deserve to travel without discomfort." With the flight attendant's assistance, the elderly man moved to the seats next to Lisa and Lily. Lily nestled comfortably on her mother's lap, and the elderly man settled into Lily's seat, visibly more at ease. The wealthy man huffed in frustration but fell silent, glaring at Lisa one last time before turning away. Lisa and Lily carefully navigated the narrow aisle to their new seats at the back. The elderly man followed slowly, his steps still unsteady, but now infused with a palpable sense of relief and appreciation. The flight attendant deftly adjusted their seating arrangement, making sure everyone was comfortably situated. Lisa carefully lifted Lily onto her lap, fastening her securely with the seat belt. "Are you okay, sweetie?" Lisa asked tenderly, brushing a stray strand of hair from Lily's face with a loving touch. Lily's eyes sparkled with curiosity as she nodded. "Mommy, who's that man?" Lisa glanced over at the elderly man, who was now easing into the seat beside them with a visible sense of relief. "He's someone very special, Lily. You'll find out soon enough." As Richard finally settled into his seat, he leaned back and let out a deep, contented sigh. The visible relaxation on his face spoke volumes of the comfort he was now experiencing. "Thank you again," Richard said quietly, his voice laced with genuine gratitude. "I didn't anticipate such kindness." Lisa offered him a warm smile. It's truly no trouble at all. We're glad to be able to help. I'm Lisa, and this is my daughter, Lily. Richard returned her smile with a mix of relief and appreciation. I'm Richard. It's a pleasure to meet you both. As the plane continued its ascent, Lisa's gaze was drawn to the military hat that Richard had placed gently on his lap. The faded insignia spoke of a long and storied service. Her curiosity was piqued, and she noticed a photo album peeking out from his carry-on bag, hinting at stories and memories yet to be shared. That's a fascinating hat, Lisa remarked. Her curiosity piqued as she nodded toward it. Were you in the military? Richard looked down at the hat, a soft, nostalgic smile spreading across his face. Yes, I served for many years. It feels like it was a lifetime ago. Lily, her curiosity insatiable, leaned in closer. Did you fight in wars? Richard nodded slowly, his eyes growing distant as if sifting through long-buried memories. Yes, I did. I served in World War II and the Korean War. Lisa's eyes widened in awe. That's incredible. Thank you for your service. Richard waved a hand modestly. I did what I could, just like so many others. We all played our part. Lily, still full of questions, peered at Richard with wide, inquisitive eyes. Did you get hurt? Richard hesitated before nodding slowly. Yes, I did. I received a bullet wound that left me with a limp. There are still pieces of shrapnel lodged in my leg. Lisa and Lily listened attentively as Richard began to recount his experiences. I remember one particular battle in Korea, Richard began, his voice tinged with emotion. We were ambushed, and chaos erupted all around us. My best friend Jack and I fought side by side, desperately trying to escape. Lily's voice was barely a whisper as she asked, "What happened to Jack?" Richard's eyes darkened with sorrow. Jack didn't make it. He saved my life, though. He pulled me out of the line of fire, but he was hit in the process. I carry his memory with me every day. Lisa reached out, gently touching Richard's arm with compassion. I'm so sorry. That must have been incredibly difficult. Richard nodded, his gaze heavy with the weight of his memories. It was. War leaves scars that go beyond the physical. I've lost many friends, and those memories are always with me. What was it like? Lisa asked softly, her voice filled with empathy. Being in the thick of it all. Richard took a deep breath, his eyes reflecting the intensity of his past experiences. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. You never knew if you'd survive to see the next day. But we had each other, and that camaraderie made it bearable. We were like family. The plane hit a patch of turbulence, causing Lily to cling to Lisa with a mix of fear and excitement. Richard reached over, gently patting her hand. It's okay, little one, just a little bump in the road. Lily looked up at him, her anxiety easing as she found comfort in his kind presence. Thank you for talking to us, Mr. Richard. Richard's eyes twinkled with warmth as he smiled back. It's my pleasure, Lily. You're very brave. As the flight continued, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Richard shared delightful stories of his travels and the places he had explored since retiring. Lisa and Lily listened with rapt attention, enchanted by his tales of distant lands and adventurous exploits. The earlier tension from the wealthy man's behavior gradually dissipated, replaced by a warm sense of camaraderie and mutual respect that blossomed among the passengers. When the plane finally touched down, Lisa and Lily eagerly sprang into action, assisting Richard in gathering his belongings from the overhead compartments. Richard's voice, laden with gratitude, broke the quiet as he turned to them. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. It's truly rare to encounter people who are so steadfast in their principles and so committed to doing what's right. Lisa's response was accompanied by a radiant smile that conveyed warmth and sincerity. It was truly the least we could do. I wish you safe travels, Richard. As they exited the aircraft, Lisa and Lily stood side by side, watching as Richard ambled, albeit slowly, toward the terminal. The profound impact of their shared experience was evident on their faces. Lisa, in particular, felt an invigorating sense of purpose and pride swell within her. The ordeal reaffirmed her belief that standing up for others and extending kindness, even amidst challenges, was always profoundly worthwhile. "Where are we heading next?" Richard inquired, his curiosity piqued. "You'll find out soon enough," Lisa replied, her eyes twinkling with a secretive glimmer as she shared a knowing glance with Lily, who responded with a soft, anticipatory giggle. Chapter 7: The Reunion. Their journey led them to a charming, time-worn house nestled in a serene, tree-lined neighborhood. The house radiated a nostalgic allure, with its meticulously cared-for garden and an inviting front porch that seemed to whisper tales of yesteryears. As they approached the front door, Richard's anticipation grew palpable. "This is where I grew up," Lisa said with a hint of reverence in her voice. "My father still lives here." She guided Richard inside, and they were immediately enveloped by the comforting, familiar aroma of home. The cozy living room, adorned with cherished family photographs, added to the warm atmosphere. In the kitchen, Lisa's father, Michael, was busily preparing tea. He glanced up, his face lighting up with a welcoming smile as he took in their arrival. "Hi, Dad," Lisa greeted him affectionately, wrapping him in a warm embrace. "This is Richard. Richard, meet my father, Michael." Michael extended his hand with a friendly gesture. "It's a pleasure to meet you." Richard shook his hand firmly, offering a polite nod in return. "Likewise." Richard replied with a genuine smile. Just as the conversation was about to continue, an elderly man entered the room. His movements were slow but imbued with an air of dignity. As soon as his eyes landed on Richard, a spark of recognition ignited. Lisa watched in awe as both men's expressions transformed with sudden realization. Richard's voice trembled with disbelief, almost as if he were afraid to hope. John's voice mirrored the astonishment in his eyes, and for a fleeting moment, it felt as though the world around them had paused. Then, overwhelmed by an outpouring of emotion, the two men surged toward each other, enveloping each other in a heartfelt embrace. Tears flowed freely down their cheeks as they clung to one another, their joy and astonishment at the unexpected reunion washing over them like a tidal wave. "I thought you were gone," Richard's voice cracked, laden with emotion. John gently pulled back, his eyes brimming with tears as he looked at his long-lost friend. "I was for a time, but I found my way back, and now, here we are." Lisa stood by, her heart swelling with a deep sense of happiness and relief. This was the moment she had longed for, the very reason she had brought Richard here. She glanced at Lily, who was watching with wide-eyed wonder, fully grasping the profound significance of the moment unfolding before them. Richard and John settled into comfortable chairs, their hands still entwined, as they began to delve into the rich tapestry of their shared past. The room was softly illuminated, casting a warm glow over the faces of the reunited friends. "Do you remember our time in Normandy?" John asked, his voice trembling slightly as a bittersweet smile appeared through his tears. Richard chuckled softly, his eyes reflecting both the humor and the gravity of the memory. "How could I ever forget? We were terrified, but somehow we pulled through together." John's expression shifted, becoming more somber as he continued, "And Korea, those were some of the hardest times. You saved my life more times than I can count." Richard shook his head, his gaze steady and earnest. "No, John, it was you who saved me. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for your courage and selflessness." As they spoke, their voices were filled with emotion, and their bond seemed to transcend the years that had separated them. Lisa and Michael, with quiet respect, laid out an array of tea and snacks, ensuring the old friends had ample space to reconnect. Lily sat close by her mother, her attention rapt as she absorbed the powerful stories of bravery and enduring friendship. Michael eventually joined the conversation, enriching the moment with his recollections of John and anecdotes passed down from Lisa's grandfather. "You were always considered part of our family," Richard Michael said warmly, "even if we didn't realize it until now." Richard looked around at the faces surrounding him, his heart swelling with a profound sense of belonging and gratitude. "I'm truly honored to be here," he said softly. "Thank you for making this possible." As the evening unfolded, the conversation flowed effortlessly. Laughter mingled with tears as they recounted tales of valor and camaraderie, the emotional depth of their stories creating an ever-deepening bond. Lisa experienced a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing she had not only unearthed a cherished piece of her family's history, but had also played a role in reuniting two old friends. As night fell, the stories continued, weaving a rich narrative of their past. John, leaning back with a reflective smile, broke the comfortable silence. "You know, Richard," he began, "I never got the chance to tell you how I survived that day in Korea." Richard's eyes widened in shock. "I always wondered what happened. I saw you get hit and then nothing. I thought I had lost you." John's face grew somber as he nodded. "It was touch and go. After I pulled you out of the line of fire, I took a hit myself. Everything went dark. When I finally came to, I was in a field hospital. I owe my life to a nurse named Margaret. She was unwavering in her dedication, pushing the doctors tirelessly to save me." Richard leaned in, intrigued. "Margaret." John's expression softened into a nostalgic smile. "Yes, Margaret. Her persistence and care were incredible. We spent countless hours together during my recovery, and, well, we fell in love. She's my wife now, and we've been together ever since." A look of genuine happiness spread across Richard's face. "That's amazing, John. To find love amidst all that turmoil, it's truly wonderful." John's eyes sparkled with a mix of gratitude and contentment. "She's been my anchor through everything. Our life together has been beautiful, a beacon of happiness I never thought I'd find after the war." Lisa, who had been absorbing the heartfelt exchange, spoke softly, her voice filled with admiration. "It's extraordinary how love can find us in the most unexpected circumstances." Richard nodded, his voice reflective. "Stories like yours give me hope. After the war, I wandered, searching for meaning, struggling to find my place. I eventually settled into a job and a routine, but there was always an emptiness. I suppose I needed some form of closure." John reached out, clasping Richard's hand with a gesture of solidarity. The conversation flowed effortlessly between them, their shared memories interspersed with laughter and tears. They recounted stories of lost friends, moments of joy, and the profound sorrows they had endured together. As the night deepened, the atmosphere took on a more contemplative tone. John gazed at Richard, his voice choked with emotion. "For years, I lived with the belief that you were gone. It was one of the hardest burdens to bear." Richard's eyes misted over. "I know. Seeing you get shot, I thought that was the end. Losing you felt like losing a part of myself. But now, having you here, it's as if fate has brought us back together, giving us a second chance." Lisa observed the poignant reunion between the two men, her heart brimming with gratitude and a deep sense of fulfillment. She marveled at the serendipity of the moment, recognizing that her efforts had helped mend a long-separated bond. "Perhaps it was fate," Richard mused quietly. "Perhaps it was destined that I met Lisa and ended up here. It feels like a chapter of our lives that was meant to be closed." John's face lit up with a warm, knowing smile. "I believe that too. And now that we've found each other again, let's make the most of every moment." As the evening approached its end, Lisa and Michael prepared a cozy guest room for Richard. Michael, with a generous gesture, suggested, "Why don't you stay with us for a while? You and John have so much catching up to do." Richard paused, his thoughts swirling with gratitude and a hint of hesitation. After a moment, he agreed, "I'd like that very much. Thank you." The following morning, the house was enveloped in the delightful aroma of breakfast. John and Richard sat at the table, their conversation flowing effortlessly, as if no time had elapsed. The days that ensued were a blend of shared meals, leisurely walks, and deep, heartfelt conversations. They reminisced about old times with laughter and forged new memories, savoring every precious moment. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky with hues of gold and pink, John turned to Richard. "You know, Richard, we should plan a trip together. Visit the places where we fought and pay our respects." Richard's eyes brightened with enthusiasm. "I'd love that. It would be a journey truly worth taking." Lisa and Michael, who had been listening from nearby, joined them on the porch. "That sounds like a fantastic idea," Lisa said, her voice filled with warmth. "You both deserve to make this trip." Michael agreed wholeheartedly. "We'll help you plan it. It will be a trip to remember." John and Richard exchanged smiles of excitement and anticipation. "Let's do it," John said, his voice filled with resolve. "For old time's sake." Over the next week, they immersed themselves in planning the trip, carefully studying maps and discussing the significant places they wanted to visit. Lisa and Michael assisted with the arrangements, ensuring every detail was meticulously planned. The preparation itself became a cherished part of their journey, deepening their connection and setting the stage for a meaningful adventure together. As Richard prepared to leave for his home to pack for their upcoming journey, he embraced Lisa and Michael with heartfelt warmth. "Thank you for everything. This has been beyond anything I could have ever imagined." Lisa's eyes shimmered with tears of joy as she returned the embrace. "It's been our pleasure, Richard. You're now a part of our family." Little Lily, holding onto Richard's hand with a mixture of hope and affection, gazed up at him with wide eyes. "Will you come back and visit us, Mr. Richard?" Richard knelt to her level, his smile gentle and reassuring. "Of course, Lily. I'll be back before you know it, and I'll have so many stories to share with you." As Richard and John set off on their journey, Lisa and Michael stood together, watching their friends drive away. They felt a profound sense of fulfillment. They had not only brought two old friends back together, but had also created new bonds that promised to endure. The journey had unfolded in unexpected ways, filled with moments of discovery and profound meaning, a poignant reminder of the significance of connection, shared memories, and mutual respect. Several weeks later, Lisa stood on the porch, her heart brimming with anticipation as she scanned the road for the familiar sight. Lily, bouncing with uncontainable excitement beside her, asked eagerly, "Do you think they had fun, Mommy?" Lisa smiled, her heart warm with the memories of their journey. "I'm sure they did, sweetheart." As a familiar car appeared in the distance, Lily's excitement peaked. She raced down the driveway to greet it, her joy palpable. The car came to a stop, and as the doors opened, Richard and John stepped out. They looked rejuvenated, their faces now radiant with happiness and vitality, in stark contrast to the years of worry and regret that had once marked them. "Grandpa." "Mister." Richard, Lily's voice rang out with uncontainable joy, her face lighting up with pure happiness. John, his eyes twinkling with the warmth of old memories, swiftly scooped Lily into a loving embrace. "Hello, Lily. I've missed you so much." Richard, with a broad and heartfelt smile, greeted Lisa and Michael. "It's wonderful to be back. The trip was everything we had hoped for and so much more." Lisa wrapped Richard in a warm hug, her heart swelling with pride and contentment. Welcome home, Richard. We're so glad to have you back. As they settled into their familiar routines, the bond among them grew even stronger. The journey had not only revived old friendships, but had also created new memories that deepened their connections. Every visit, every story shared, became a treasured part of their lives, a testament to the enduring strength of friendship and the importance of family. The journey had been more than just a physical expedition. It was an emotional odyssey that highlighted the power of their relationships. As they looked to the future, they carried with them the knowledge that their lives had been profoundly enriched by the connections they had made and the memories they had woven together. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey through reconnecting old friendships and deepening the bonds of family. As we've seen, these stories remind us of the profound impact of kindness, the strength of enduring relationships, and the beauty of shared experiences. We'd love to hear from you. What have you learned from this story so far? Share one lesson or insight that you plan to incorporate into your own life in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more heartfelt content. Your support means the world to us.